Hello, everyone. Let's talk about PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and everything I wish I had known when I was diagnosed. So let's go back in time a little bit. When I was first diagnosed with PCOS, I had already suffered for years with a lot of the PCOS symptoms. But at the time I had PCOS symptoms, the doctors weren't really aware of PCOS at that time. And if they were aware of it, it was none of my doctors. So what I wanted to talk about first are birth control pills. Now, when I was first diagnosed, or before they knew I had PCOS, the first thing they did was put me on birth control pills. Now, birth control pills are highly used to help regulate hormones. But what I didn't know at the time was, yes, it regulates hormones while you're taking the birth control pills, but birth control pills don't get down to the root cause of why we have PCOS or what's really going on. So I wasn't fixing anything at the root cause. I was just laying something over the symptoms to get through the day-to-day. What I didn't know is the actual root cause of PCOS. Had I treated that, I probably wouldn't have become as sick as I have become. Birth control pills are often prescribed to women with PCOS to help control hormones. So they will help us lower testosterone levels. They will help somewhat with progesterone levels, depending on the type of birth control pill that you take. But none of this is getting to the root cause of why we even have PCOS. And I wish I had realized this in the very beginning. But because technology and medical science was so far behind, we really weren't aware of any of these factors. But what I really want to point out is I took birth control for many, many years. I started on birth control at a very young age to regulate my cycle. A lot of us were, but a lot of us are now very sick with other autoimmune conditions. And there are studies coming out that birth control pills can lead to leaky gut or gut permeability or intestinal permeability. It can also hurt our biodiversity in our guts. So taking birth control, I feel, is just setting us up for more issues or more autoimmune issues down the road. Now, PCOS is not an autoimmune condition, it's an endocrine condition. However, sometimes people confuse it as an autoimmune condition, and I wanted to point that out. Now, birth control pills may or may not have set me up for more sicknesses down the road, but had I known that it could cause gut permeability or some of the intestinal issues, I probably wouldn't have stayed on birth control as long as I did. And there's many people in my age group that were on birth control for years to try to regulate PCOS. I have no doubts that that is leading to more of the conditions or autoimmune conditions that we're seeing today. Probably just one of the factors, not all of the factors, but one of the factors. And we need to be made aware of this because birth control is handed out too easily to women who don't have hormones that are acting as they should. We're not doing proper hormone testing. We're not doing what needs to be done so that we can fix what's really the issue we're going on at the root of the problem. And that needs to stop. And we need to start thinking about our health and what the doctors are prescribing for the issue that we are currently having, and take a look at PCOS as just one of those issues. So the second thing I wish I had known was that PCOS, one of the main drivers of PCOS is insulin resistance. I didn't know that at the time. Now, after I was diagnosed, years into the diagnosis, we began to learn that carb intake was hurting or making the insulin resistance worse, which was then making PCOS worse. The third thing I wish I had known at the time I was diagnosed, that going on a keto diet or stop eating all carbs does not fix or go to the root of insulin resistance. Sure, it drops your glucose levels while you're not eating carbs, but as soon as you eat a carb, your insulin resistance appears again. And I wish that some of us would stop with some of the terminology that going keto or not eating carbs reverses some of these conditions. You can hear that eating keto reverses PCOS or reverses some of the other ailments that we have. And it's not reversing anything, because if it was reversing, you would be able to eat carbs without having insulin resistance as still having an issue. But that doesn't happen. I know this because I've done keto on and off for years. I've been on and off carbs for years. And as soon as I eat a carb, insulin resistance is back. All of my PCOS symptoms are back. So we're not reversing anything. And I wish we would stop calling it that, because what we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. Keto isn't getting to the root of the insulin resistance, and we're not really fixing anything by eating keto. Now, or eating a whole lot less carbs. Now, it can help drive down inflammation. It can help drive down the insulin levels within our body to eat less carbs. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I wish I had known that it wasn't really fixing or solving insulin resistance at all. To this day, I still eat a lower carb lifestyle because my body just can't handle the carbs. And I do get more inflamed when I eat carbs. So I do eat a lower carb lifestyle. However, I wish I had known it wasn't reversing or fixing insulin resistance in any way. Now, the third thing that I wish I had known when I was diagnosed were there are some very basic at the bare minimum supplements that we could be taking. And I'm going to go over those very quickly. I didn't want the whole video to be about supplements, but this just at the bare minimum. Mind you, there are tons of supplements we can take for PCOS and for insulin resistance. However, there's a bare minimum for PCOS and supplements that I think we need to talk about, and I wish I had known. So myo-inositol. If you're trying to get pregnant, check out myo-inositol. And if you have PCOS, even if you're not trying to get pregnant, check out myo-inositol, because it gets to the baseline of insulin resistance. And some of the studies are showing that it's actually improving insulin resistance by quite a large percentage. For some of us, it's not working for everyone, but it is helping with insulin resistance, which then helps with your PCOS symptoms and a lot of the hormonal issues that we're having. There have been several studies written that are showing women who are trying to get pregnant that have PCOS have become successful with myo-inositol. So you might want to check it out or ask your doctor about it. Fish oil always comes up, no matter what our ailments are. Fish oil comes up. So fish oil. My omega-3s, the last time I checked them, were very, very low. In fact, most of us in America have very low omega-3s. It's probably one of the most basic supplements we can start supplementing with, no matter what we're going through. But ask your doctor if fish oil is okay for you. If you have a fish allergy, fish oil is not going to be okay for you. So you need to take some of this into consideration when we're talking about supplements. Fish oil is one of the ones that I basically started with to help different issues that I was having and just to get my omega-3s back in line with where they should be. It's always something that you can check, especially if you just have a standard typical diet. Omega-3s will be pretty low. The next thing is vitamin D. What I didn't know at the time is anywhere from 67 to 85% of us with PCOS have deficient vitamin D levels. I wish I had known this. This is also true for lupus and other autoimmune conditions. Again, PCOS is an endocrine condition, but it's also showing that most of the women, 67 to 85%, don't have enough vitamin D. So vitamin D is something very basic that we can supplement with to help turn some of this around, or at least to make us feel a little bit better. The other thing that I want to talk about is NAC. N-acetylcysteine, we call it NAC for short. This and studies have shown that it does have the ability to help lower testosterone levels and lower inflammation. I wish I had known about this all those years ago. I had severe inflammation. My testosterone levels were 3 times higher than what they should have been, but I didn't know anything about NAC at the time. I now take it as just a baseline basic supplement to help with androgen levels. If you have testosterone that is higher than it should be, and you're dealing with PCOS, check out NAC, read some of the studies. Again, it's N-acetylcysteine. It's very hard for me to remember, so I always just call it NAC. So those are the very 4 basic supplements I wish I had known when I was diagnosed with PCOS. I wish I had known that birth control wasn't really fixing anything at the root. And I really wish I had known that insulin resistance was one of the main drivers of PCOS, because I think I would have tackled it a little bit differently. Now, studies are still continuing to come out, and we're learning more and more every day. If I was diagnosed with PCOS today, I would have taken a much different route, and I would not have tried birth control. I just would have tried things that got to the root of insulin resistance and some basic supplementation that I didn't know about at the time. I'm concerned that prolonged use of birth control, in my case, caused other autoimmune conditions. And I have become sicker and sicker the older that I become with autoimmune conditions. And there are studies linking leaky gut to birth control. And there were a lot of us that were diagnosed with PCOS such a long time ago that we were on birth control for many, many years before we were even ready to try to conceive, to get off of birth control. So we were on prolonged use of birth control. And I really think that had a lot to do with a lot of the damage that was caused in my gut. However, there's still studies that need to be done. We still need to learn more about this, but these are the top 3 things I wish I had known about PCOS when I was diagnosed, so that maybe I could have handled it a little bit differently. Maybe I could have got to the root of it a little bit better. But data is knowledge, case studies are knowledge, everything that's coming out is knowledge. All we can do is continue to study and do better moving forward for us. So if you're like me, and maybe you were on birth control for a really long time, or maybe you're still on birth control, I think you need to take a look at that and see that if that's really the route that you want to go. Had I known some of the things that I know today, it would not have been my choice. But the good thing about it is we all have a choice as to what medications we're taking, what types of supplements we are taking. It's our duty to ask our doctor these questions so that we can do better for ourselves. And if your doctor isn't one to answer your questions and to encourage you to ask more questions, find another doctor. So that's everything I wish I had known when I was diagnosed with PCOS. If you have PCOS, I hope this video finds you, and I wish you well along your journey. I'll see you in the next video.